Yes, we're back on 67 Hail Hail on YouTube with me, your usual host, Hamish Carton. Of course, there's not too much that's usual about this current situation that we all find ourselves in. Since we last recorded, and it's probably only about 3 weeks ago when we were looking ahead to the derby match against Rangers at Ibrox, everything seems to have changed. We're now in lockdown. You could probably tell that from the fact that I'm sitting here in my house and not the studio, the fact I'm myself, there's no David and John, and maybe even the fact that you can see the crappy haircut that I managed to give myself yesterday. So we're all having a laugh, not really, but hopefully we can bring you some sort of, regular content on the channel between now and then. We're doing our best to do that. As I'm sure you'll all understand, it's tricky at the moment with various things that are going on, but we are going to bring you some sort of video. Today anyway, we're going to take a look at the Celtic squad and basically choose who we're going to keep and who we're going to punt. Obviously it looks increasingly likely that the season's over, so we're going to make, some assertions. Well, I'm anyway, it's only me on this video. I'm going to look at the players and basically pick who, as I say, we think should stay and who should go at the end of the season. Starting with Craig Gordon. Now, as most folk will know, Craig Gordon, his contract's up at the end of the season. He's probably played his last game for the club. I certainly think so. He's 37 years old. He joined a few years ago at the start of the Ronnie Deila era. He's been a decent enough signing, but for me, with the goalkeeping options we have, and certainly that I hope we have next season, I think it's time for him to move on. Will he find another club? Will he retire? That remains to be seen. Fraser Forster, the big question. Hopefully he's going to sign, but the massive question that everyone's pondering is, how much is he going to cost? And will we be gazumped by any other English teams? Who knows? The way he's played in the Europa League this season can't have gone unnoticed. Southampton will probably stay up. I think they're about 7 points clear of the relegation places. Who knows what's going to happen down south and whether they're going to finish the season, etc. I don't think Southampton's league stakes will have too much of a say in it, but time will tell. How much is Fraser Forster going to cost? If he costs 10 million, which we sold him for a few years ago, is that money well spent? For me, when you look at the points, he won as the Cup, he won as at Hampden, the victory over Lazio, etc. You've got to pay that money. For me, you're not going to get a better keeper for that price, even if he is a wee bit older. Scott Bain, another goalkeeper, he's contracted until the year 2023. The big question folk are asking about him is he good enough to be at the club? Is he good enough to be a number 2, hopefully to Forster? He's proven that he's not been good enough to be a number 1. Time will tell whether he can be a number 2. I have my doubts. I think, that period he had at the start of the season with the Cluj debacle and the game against Motherwell when he let in the soft goal at the start as well. I think that may have, damaged him a little bit, but time will tell what happens with Scott Bain. I'm prepared to get behind him next year. I would keep him for now. Right, into the defenders. Christopher Julian, got to keep him, of course. He cost 7 million. He scored 7 goals. Funnily enough, that actually makes him our 7th top scorer all season, which is incredible for a centre-back. Not only that, he scored big goals, the winner against Lazio and the cup final goal that won the Betfred Cup against Rangers. But on top of those goals, they're a nice bonus if you're a good defender, and he certainly is. He's been a great acquisition, and it's no doubting for me you've got to keep him and avoid selling him as well. Jozo Simunovic, for me, with that Copenhagen howler still fresh in everyone's mind, probably one of the last lingering memories we'll have of the 2019-2020 season. He's out of contract in 2021. I think this is his summer to leave. If we could get a couple of million for him, I think we all shake hands and we move on. He's just not got it for me, and then that's putting his injuries to the side because he's barely played as well. Christopher Ayer, big season for him next year. He's contracted until May 2022. There's been talk of interest from AC Milan. I want to see him become a proper Celtic centre-back next year. I think everyone's got this perception that he's automatically going to become the next Van Dijk and move for 10-12 million in a couple of years. I think he's got a lot to prove on that. I don't think he's half the defender Julian's been this season, and I think he could look at his namesake and try and improve on that next year, because he's certainly got loads of potential. He's playing with Norway, all of that, but I really want to see it from him next year. But obviously for now, keep, unless a massive bid came in, then I would get rid of him. Hatem Abdelhamed, amazingly enough, for being such a fan favourite, he's only played 5 league games all season. That says a lot about his injury troubles. It says a lot about Jeremy Frimpong, and probably the want from Neil Lennon to freshen things up at right back with the likes of Moritz Bauer playing as well. Got to keep Elhamed for me, brilliant player. I just hope he can get over his injury problems next season. Balling goalie, big questions over him. He's effectively been frozen out after that Rangers game. Does he have a future at the club? Question marks for me. There's got to be when Neil Lennon's, as I say, frozen him out so much. He's a good probably the best attacking left back we have, but his defensive, lapses in concentration and the dodgy passes that he gives away needlessly in the middle of games and just the daft things he does, put me under a bit of pressure when I'm thinking about him. I'd keep him for now, but he's got to improve next season. Right, Greg Taylor, same kind of idea, except it's the defensive abilities for me. He's certainly a better defender than he is an attacker. He's got to improve his attacking abilities. Kieran Tierney wasn't signed by Arsenal from us because of his defensive abilities. He was signed because he could go forward and create goals and score goals himself. Greg Taylor's got to do that as well, because we're in the ascendancy in so many games, and he lacks a bit of pace. He lacks that good final ball, that shot. If he can work on that, and he's got the solid foundation of being a defender, he can still be a big success at Celtic, in my opinion. Calvin Miller, for me, contract up. No doubt he's going to be leaving the club. Disappointing that he's never really made it, but I suppose these things happen. Same goes for Moritz Bauer. His loan will be up. He'll be returning back to Stoke. He gave us all, but quite forgettable, spell at Celtic, to be honest. The opposite goes for Jeremy Frimpong, one of the big success stories of this season. I just really hope that fearlessness he had in his early spell hasn't been coached out of him. When he first got into the team, he was taking men on at will. I don't know if it's a combination of players, cottoning on to that a wee bit more recently. The fact that he's maybe doubting himself a little bit more. He feels that he's lost a bit of that fearlessness. But I'd just be a little tiny bit concerned about that. But I think he's been a real revelation. I cannot wait to see him back playing next season. Nir Beaton recently signed a new contract, pretty straightforward. I'd keep him. He's a big part of, or a decent sized part of our on the pitch team, plays now and again, but I think more importantly he's a big part of the dressing room. And I think as we go for, touch wood 10 in a row, because I don't see why we wouldn't be next season, he's going to be a massive part of that. Ismail Assoro, Luca Connell, don't know anything about them, so I will pass on that duo for now. On the same topic, Abu Kwasi, Jack Hendry, Anthony Ralston, I'll group those three together. They've all finished the season in loan spells. I think all three will be away from the club, hopefully this summer. I don't think any of them have a future. They've all not really worked out for whatever reason, so, they should probably go for the good of Celtic and for the good of their careers as well. Olivier Ntcham, he's only got a couple more years on his contract. Some people may be wondering whether this is the right summer to sell him. He's been such an important player for me, and he's turned into one of our most important players that I just don't think you can comprehend selling him ahead of such a big season. Really want to keep him. Same goes, of course, for Callum McGregor and Scott Brown. You don't even need to comment on those two because they've been such big parts of our team, the two rocks of our team, if you like, and having them fit. Hopefully the break that we're getting at the moment gives them, a bit of a boost as well, because they both play so much football. So hopefully from all this dire coronavirus stuff, we get some sort of respite there with Callum McGregor and Scott Brown. Kundai Benyu, one more year left in his contract. I would get rid of him for basically any price, even if we have to pay him off this summer. Ewan Henderson still got a bright future for me, but it's been a bit of a wasted season for him on loan at Ross County at the start of the season, and then obviously coming back in January, couldn't really go out anywhere else, and the season's been cut short anyway. So bit of a wasted year for him. Hopefully he doesn't take that too badly, just get back to what he's doing, and he'll get more first team opportunities. He's got a manager there that will certainly give him that, because he did the same with his brother. James Forrest, 16 goals. Unfortunately for him, if the season isn't finished, it doesn't look like he's going to beat his tally. That sits at 17 for 2 seasons prior to that. So a bit of disappointment there for him. But as I say, 16 goals are a really good tally for him. Obviously keep. Johnny Hayes, he's out of contract in the summer. Neil Lennon, we know that he really likes him. We've seen that from the amount of games he's played him in during the season, but do we really need him if we've got Greg Taylor and Ball and goalie? I don't know, maybe the answer to that is yes, because neither of them are particularly good, but I don't know. Johnny Hayes is a difficult one. It depends how much Neil Lennon really wants him and how much Johnny Hayes wants to play consistent football. That's the acid test there. Ryan Christie, he's never really got the chance in the second half of the season, but no doubt he was our best player before the new year. You've got to keep him. And can't wait to see him in action next season as well. Tom Rogic, this may be a controversial one for me, but with 3 years left in his contract, I think this is the time to sell him. I just don't get the impression that it's going to work out for him. Again, at Celtic, I think he's lost a lot of what made him good. He's dropped behind Ryan Christie and Ntcham in the pecking order. There's arguments that Ewan Henderson, if he can come onto a game, could perhaps slip ahead of him as well next season. So big pressure on Tom Rogic. All the international travelling to Australia does him no good either. So I think it might be the right time to sell him and get a nice wee profit there. Mohamed Elyounoussi, for all of the brilliance that he showed at the start of the season, he did only score 7 goals for us, although it does depend, what Southampton will want from him. If they want 15 million, I think a lot of folk will be more hesitant now in paying that than they were 5 or 6 months ago. However, if they're happy to accept a lower fee, 6-7 million, again, that's debatable. He's a good player on his day, pretty good player. He did have a lot of injuries, but is he good enough to warrant that huge money for us? It's a big question to be asked. I would sign him. Mikey Johnson, hopefully the break's done him some good. Of course, you want to keep him, young player, really good start to the season. And as I say, that injury that he had, he hasn't missed as much football as he perhaps thought he would due to the coronavirus outbreak. So hopefully Johnson can build on that next season. Daniel Arzani is 2-year loan spells up. There's been talk about us extending it, but for me, we've got to punt him. It's just not worked. Move him on, back to Man City or whatever. We just have to admit that it's not worked out, that one. Marian Shved, I would punt him, but with the caveat that I do it on loan, just to see if he's any good. He's not had an opportunity to play under Neil Lennon basically all season. He clearly has some sort of quality from his time in Ukraine, so I'd loan him out, not back to Ukraine. I think he needs to be loaned out to another Scottish team or an English team at worst. I think he needs to stay in Britain with that style of football and get used to the language, because that apparently is a problem. He's got quality there, so I would not want to sell him permanently, but I think we need to see what quality he's got next year. Odsonne Edouard, well, hopefully we've not seen him play in a Celtic shirt for the last time. Life is tough enough at the moment without me putting that dire thought into your head, so we'll stay positive for now. I'm going to say that he is staying, and hopefully he can score loads more goals as we go on our way to 10 in a row next season. Patrick Klimala, big question mark, just like Sorrow earlier on. We've not really seen him play. Maybe that's a question in itself. Why have we not seen him play more? Because we did sign him all the way back in January, the middle of January as well. But time will tell. Leigh Griffiths, he's done enough for me to suggest that he's got a bright future at the club. He's contracted until the year 2022, so will he get a new deal pretty soon? Probably has to be done pretty soon if he's going to do it. But yeah, he's definitely shown since the new year that he's got a bright future at the club, and hopefully him and Edouard, we see a lot more of them up top next season. And finally, last but not least, last but least, Vakun Bio, for me, it's just not going to cut it. We need to move him on. He just doesn't have the qualities. He's incredibly raw. I know people will say that a lot of other players were raw then turned into good ones, Ryan Christie, Rogic, etc. But they showed promise for me, and it's also much harder when you're not scoring goals up top. I get that he's not had the opportunities. It's perhaps a little bit unfair of me to say it, but for me it's a punt. Bye Bio, I suppose. Right guys, that's us. Really appreciate you viewing this video again. We know it's not the sparkling debate that we usually produce in our studio up in Glasgow, but we've done our best, or I have certainly, to bring you some sort of content. Can't make too many promises for the future because we just don't know how this is going to pan out at all. But what I'll do promise you is that the channel has a bright future. Be it 3, 4, 5 months from now, we will be back doing proper regular content. It's just a case of seeing it out for now, and hopefully we're going to be crowned champions pretty soon, or the season's going to be finished and we'll win the league on merit. So good times are coming whatever happens. We really appreciate all the support. Of course, if you haven't yet subscribed to the channel, we'd love you to do that. Click the wee bell as well so you don't miss any of our new videos, which should be hopefully some sort of frequency about them, but time will tell. Also, of course, we'll just pass on the government message: stay home, protect the NHS and save lives. That's so important at the moment. If we all do that, we'll be out of this very soon and back to doing what we love, watching and talking and viewing about football. Take care.